every single person building a personal brand online is thinking about their content, their messaging, their visibility. And almost nobody is thinking about what is literally surrounding them while they do it. My guest today is Jayn Simpson, designer, entrepreneur, and founder of Styled to Rise. She helps women transform their homes and workspaces into environments that support clarity, confidence, well being, and real growth in life and business. And when I learned about her CEO workspace and Zoom background transformation package, I knew this conversation needed to happen because here's the truth. The impression you make online happens in literally seconds, and the environment behind you and around you is either working for your personal brand or it's quietly working against it. The lighting, the camera angle, the layout, the styling, all of it is communicating something before you ever say a word. This is one of those conversations that's going to make you look around your workspace and see it completely differently. Let's get into it. You're listening to the Secret Marketing Diary of Personal Brands, where being the face of your business gets to be powerful, profitable, and unfiltered. Jayn, I'm so excited to have you on for this conversation because, we talk about personal style, we talk about our style like in our environment, and I love your style. And so I think this is going to be such a really great conversation. And I would love to start with your story because I think
Okay.
it's really going to set the stage for everything that we're going to talk about, what you pulled into this work and why it's become such a passion of yours. And like, what did you see or experience in your own journey that made you realize this matters more than people think? And also, and I know this is like a long-winded question that we're
Mhm.
starting. Also, how did Styled to Rise come about? Like, what was the moment where you said, this is exactly what I want to build, and this is who I am building it for? So, welcome. And yeah, just like literally spew it all. We want to hear it all.
All right. Well, you asked for it. Well, thank you, Gina. Thanks so much for having me. So my work sits at this intersection of environment, intentional design, identity, and performance. So I am the founder of Style to Rise. And in that work, I really do help entrepreneurs, founders, executives, and women in transition really intentionally design environments that support greater clarity and confidence and productivity and really this life that you're working to create. So I think most people think of their home as just, a workspace, this backdrop to their life, but I really see it much differently. I fully believe that our environments are constantly influencing how we think and feel and focus, really how we make decisions and show up and ultimately perform. And so that belief comes from both my own journey and many years of studying how physical environments influence human behavior, our well being and productivity and performance. And so I grew up in a very, very creative home. My mom was my biggest inspiration. She was constantly sewing and knitting and drawing, and still does, and
So
taking me to
far.
museums, art galleries, jazz festivals. So creativity was just my life. And so by the time I was 12, I was already creating my very first fashion collection in the basement on her sewing machine and fabric
Oh
scraps. And
my
so,
gosh.
yeah.
I
So
love
fast forward maybe 8 years, I ended up graduating from a fashion design school, top of the class. But when I moved back home, I just found myself at this total crossroads. I had just gotten out of a relationship that was pretty devastating to me. And so I was going through this really difficult time. And I was,
Mhm.
living with roommates with bad energy and working jobs that did not reflect who I knew I was really capable of becoming. And so I just remember thinking at that time, like, this cannot be my next chapter. And so I made a decision and I moved. I rented my own tiny studio apartment, but it had these really fabulous high ceilings, the old clawfoot tub, like super humble, nothing special. But to me, it was
Yeah.
magical. I kind of saw the possibility and saw what it could become. And I completely transformed it into a sanctuary. So I painted the walls and filled the space with this really inspiring art and layered the lighting and constantly listening to like 40s jazz. And while doing all of that, I was also creating this environment that reflected the future I really wanted rather than,
Mhm.
these whole circumstances that I was leaving behind. And so every single night I would sit at my old industrial sewing machine and just start to create my very first official collection. And so that tiny apartment did become the birthplace of my first fashion label. And so in no time, I walked into the most prestigious boutique in my hometown and the owner bought every single piece. And so that just kind of skyrocketed everything. And so it really taught me that, when your environment reflects who you're becoming, you start to think differently, you act differently, you really see possibilities that you couldn't see before. And so that really stayed with me. And so
Wow.
over the years, I did build a successful fashion label. That's what
Okay,
brought me
wait,
to
really
Yeah.
quick, not to, like,
Yeah.
completely interrupt. So it's okay, fashion label, like, that's huge for one. Like, let's not just skip over that. And I mean, this is, for those of you that are not watching on YouTube and you're just listening to the audio, make sure to find this on YouTube because you will come when you see Jane, you're gonna be like, okay, I totally get it. Cause you totally match that persona. And I can, totally like see that, even though that's not exactly what you're doing today.
Mhm.
Like I can totally see it. So first of all, what was the name of the fashion label?
Well, it was my name. It was Jayn Simpson. So
It was
everything
you.
was
Amazing.
my label. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, but I fully
Yeah.
embodied it, right? And that's what it
Mhm.
takes to become this new identity. It is fully
Yeah,
embodying not just your environment, but how you
right.
think and how you act and yeah, all of that. So, and I actually, that's what brought me to Toronto 21 years ago was for Toronto Fashion Week. So I was accepted into the runway shows and that was just such an incredible time. I just loved not just creating the collections, but actually creating the entire runway show with the music and the props. And anyways, it was just incredible experience. And I was wholesaling across the country for many years and even ended up owning a couture bridal boutique in Yorkville. So that was, a phenomenal 12 years of my life. But
Yeah.
then moved into this whole new chapter after that. And that was corporate design. So really kind of one extreme to the next. I wasn't used to corporate
Yeah.
but you know what? It was a very entrepreneurial role. And I got to spend 12 years leading these beautiful projects all across North America with top architecture firms and
Mhm.
experienced design teams. So it's pretty neat. But
Yeah.
every chapter that I move through, I just, you really start to notice the same pattern that whenever I intentionally elevated my environment, my
Yeah.
confidence, creativity, opportunities all seem to really expand right alongside all of it. So, but everything kind of stopped when COVID hit because I
Yeah.
was traveling almost weekly and working on these incredible projects and working directly with designers. And so now I'm stuck at home and I started to deal with a whole lot of anxiety and like starting to get health challenges. Vertigo was extreme.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, we just talked about
I
this. I
know,
I
that's
just
why when you brought
had
that up,
vertigo.
I'm like, "Oh,
Oh.
I know the pain. I know how awful it is." I tried everything, and it's funny 'cause it would hit me, and then it would go away, and then years later come back, but during COVID, it actually was pretty severe, and I was starting to go see specialists, but then that was when I really dove incredibly deep into meditation and
Mhm.
learning to change my health and other things that I struggled with from within, and I went really, really deep,
Mhm.
particularly into Joe Dispenza's work. I won't get deep into that, but I
Yeah.
really started to practice a lot of, the meditation and the breath work. And it really did transform me. I was able to kick it. Thank
Yeah.
God, knock on wood, it hasn't returned. But
Wow.
yeah, that whole period really set me into this deep dive of personal development and soul searching as well. And so that was when I kind of got into I got started to hire Tony Robbins coaches and doing like the Unleash the Power Within, all of these really transformative, exercises. And then I got into real estate investing because I was really searching for this way out to find, financial freedom where I could leave corporate. And so that's when I started to transform properties. So I did turn a very dated home into this luxury duplex and then Now I own some short-term, midterm rentals that are wellness focused. So I also design and manage those. And so again, just seeing how much our environment influence our behavior and mindset. So through all of this, it wasn't just transforming spaces. I was really transforming myself. And so, it really proves that environment isn't just aesthetic; it is strategic. Our environments are either reinforcing who we've been or supporting who we're becoming. And so
Yeah.
that truly comes to your original question, that is the insight that became the foundation for Style to Rise. And that's why now I get to help entrepreneurs and women really intentionally design environments that support that greater clarity and the confidence and growth. And yeah, our environment isn't just where, we live or work. It really is influencing how we think and
Right.
perform and what we believe is possible. So that's kind of my
I
long-winded answer for you.
No, but I love it, and you know what? It's like it's such a teaching moment for people because people forget, especially entrepreneurs, when you go into business for yourself, it's usually because you're passionate about something, you wanna create this movement, but we get so lost also we can
Mhm.
get so lost
Yeah.
and distracted, right? Because we need to make money. We
Yeah.
need to make an income. But, for me personally, like one of the things that it takes me back to when I used to dance. So I grew up as a
Mm.
dancer and I did
Oh,
ballet. And
love
at
that.
that time it was called jazz. They don't call it jazz
Mhm.
anymore, I don't think, but, modern and point. And one of the things that when I think back to those moments, why, and, people are like, well, how does marketing tie into that? For me, my love for marketing is not just the tactics, but it's
Mhm.
creating that experience for an audience. And that's what it felt like when I was dancing. It wasn't
Mm.
just the costume or the
Yeah.
choreography, right? It was all of the elements putting
Yes.
together to create this experience for the audience. And
Mm.
so I think that's where my love for marketing and the way that we do it um, comes from, just like, the way that you are helping entrepreneurs, but even
Mhm.
businesses with
Mhm.
their environment and what that looks like for them. So
Yeah,
I
I love
love that so
that.
much.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go a little deeper on this whole
Mm.
environment and human performance, because I
Mm.
think this is really important for business owners, especially, experts, personal brands, and those that are doing it from home, like ourselves.
Mm. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about this because I think this is a piece that most people are completely underestimating.
Yeah.
And you talk about this a lot. And I know that there's like
Mhm.
some really real science behind how this works.
Yeah, there really is. Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is believing that, our performance, it's all internal. We focus
Mhm.
on our mindset and the discipline, the habits that, we have to really focus on, but we rarely talk about the environment. The reality is your surroundings are constantly influencing your nervous system. So every single day your brain is processing this visual information, the sensory input, these, unfinished tasks, maybe, or clutter, or lighting conditions, the noise, the color, the spatial organization. So all of those factors affect our focus, our decision making, our creativity and stress levels, our productivity and confidence,
Mhm.
all of that. So it's, research has found that, women who describe their homes as cluttered and stressful naturally have these higher levels of cortisol. And so that's very important because as entrepreneurs, we make hundreds of decisions every single week. And many of those decisions are made from our home. And so, our next
Right.
client, the next hire, investment, your next offer, if you're operating from an environment that constantly creates friction,
Hmm.
or stress, there's a cost, and that is delayed decisions. We'll have unfinished projects or reduced creativity. Yeah, all of that leads to less capacity to pursue opportunities. So your environment, it's not the entire answer, but it
Right.
absolutely influences your ability to perform at your highest level.
What would you say for someone who is feeling it, right? Like they know that their
Yep.
environment is not aligned whatsoever with who they are right now and who
Yep.
they envision themselves to be. What would be like 3 of the very first things that you would suggest to them to do?
Yeah. So I would say, becoming super aware. So you've got that awareness and noticing what is triggering you. So then you know what needs to, be removed from your space. So I always start with clearing that visual clutter. Of course, starting, with your workspace, one space at a time because it's overwhelming if we try and, do our entire house and we get nowhere.
Right.
So, if we're talking about, of course, workspace, so that's what I'm going to kind of talk about now. So really
Yeah.
removing anything that doesn't support the work you're doing. So if you're something is triggering you,
Mhm.
immediately remove it, whether and because every single, pile or unfinished task or visual distraction is competing for your attention. So just
Mhm.
creating that visual clarity will often create, mental clarity as well. So I always like to set a timer, 15, 20 minutes a day, same time ideally, and just, have that garbage bag ready, have that donation
Yeah.
bin ready, and just start to release. So that would be number one. Next, I would really start to improve your sensory environment. So, I think a lot of people underestimate the impact of lighting. So, if you
Mhm.
can, move as close as possible to natural light by a window, ideally looking into nature. Also, layering your lighting, having just a task lamp in that like 2700K range is
Mhm.
great because it's warm, but it's still alive enough that you won't fall asleep.
Yeah.
So reducing any harsh overhead lighting, of course. I always love to consider scent and sound as well.
Mhm.
Um, you know, the goal is really creating a space that supports that focus and confidence and well-being. Citrus is great for giving you that boost of aliveness. So if you have an oil diffuser, I like very
Yeah.
neutral, I like pink colors and so on for a workspace, but you can always
Mhm.
add in that pop of color with flowers like yellow or pinks. I always love to do that because it's just, energizing, but it's not overwhelming by any sense and it's living energy. So,
Right.
yeah. And then the third thing I love to do is creating these, future focused environmental cues. So a lot of us keep, our goals maybe trapped in our heads. So I like to bring them into the environment. So say you want to be a speaker. I
Mhm.
love to, frame a photo of yourself, like speaking on a stage in front of a large crowd. So, AI can create these images or you can Photoshop, what have you. But, if you want to maybe create a book, you can create, again, this like mock up of your future book cover and have it around you every day. If you want this bigger business, again, just surround yourself with these visual reminders that
Yeah.
really impact, what you're working towards. So, your environment, I think, should always reinforce your goals and like not distract you. So I always have something framed on my, desk and have these visual reminders. So those are kind of the top three.
Yeah, those are great tips. So before we came on, I was telling you how we're renovating a bedroom in our home that's going to be still my daughter's room, but slash
Mm.
guest room and office.
Yeah.
But one of the things is I had to decide when I was in here, I was like, and you can't tell because I'm
Mm.
covering the stuff that's back there.
Yeah.
But um, I was telling my husband, I'm like, so where she had her desk is not going to work for me. It
Okay.
was against the wall. I'm like,
Mm.
my desk needs to be in front of the window. And that's
Yes.
exactly
Good.
what I'm looking at. And we have
Yeah.
a horse stable behind our house. So
Perfect.
I'm
Oh,
looking at
lovely.
horses. Yeah.
That's
And it's
beautiful.
so cute. I know I'm in South Florida, like
Oh my
super
gosh.
10 minutes from the beach, but then I see horses in
Wow.
my backyard. So
That's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. So for me, like I totally get that too. Something that you said about color, and I know we're not talking about actual like personal style on us,
Right.
but I just want to touch on this really quick because um
Mm.
I used to do a lot of personal styling
Right.
for our clients, our female clients, especially
Mm.
the ones that spoke on stages and, you
Yeah.
know, also like have these big live virtual events, that sort of thing.
Mm.
And one of the things that I've told people in a lot of my trainings, which by the way, this Friday I'm going to share about this too. But
Mm.
speaking of color, the color yellow, right? And you
Oh,
mentioned citrus too, right?
yeah.
Like that it brightens everything up. So
Yeah.
the color yellow, and there I know we're totally off topic right now, but hopefully this is helpful for everyone else listening too.
Yeah.
So yellow pants. So there's this yellow pant theory. I
Okay.
literally have yellow pants, and
Okay.
every time I would put on my yellow pants, I love bright colors. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I'm wearing,
Yeah.
fuchsia.
Yeah.
You've seen me wearing bright colors all the time, but there's something about wearing yellow pants that completely, like,
I
changes
love that.
your mood for the day.
Totally.
And, and being home, many people are like, "Oh, well, I don't really need to get dressed. I'll just wear athleisure clothing all day."
Yeah.
I'm telling or my
Oh, no.
pajamas all day. I
Never.
can't do it. Like, one of the
No, me
very
neither. Never,
yeah,
ever, ever.
it's like one of the very first things that a good friend of mine told me when I left corporate and started working from home, she said, "No matter what you do, wake up
Mhm.
every day and get dressed as if you're
Yes.
going to the office." Now, I
Mhm.
don't need to wear corporate, like, office, really strict clothes every day, so I'm just wearing what I like to wear for
Yeah.
fun, but yeah, every single day. So, I would say that too is super helpful when we're
Oh,
talking about the environment is think about what
yes.
you're putting on and wear the yellow pants. Grab yourself some really cool yellow pants 'cause those really work.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. I mean, yellow is like joy, right?
It
So of course
is.
you
It
feel good.
totally
The
is.
first, like, whenever I go for flowers, I always grab those like bunch of yellow tulips because it just makes
Yeah.
you happy.
Yep.
It's just such a
100%.
joyful color. So, and yes, I 100% agree on, dressing up every day because you
Yeah.
feel different when you're dressed up. Like you feel more professional. You feel like a business person. It really does change you like psychologically. So,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So a little bit more like it I know we just talked about the CEO workspace, but like let's talk
Mm,
about Zoom too, or like backgrounds. And so
right.
we're gonna get a little more tactical here because I know you do these CEO workspace and Zoom
Mhm.
transformations. So tell me a little bit about those because I think, especially for so many of us that are working from home or we have these virtual spaces. And you shared a little bit about lighting, but like the background itself and how should, we kind of gauge as to what that should look like based off of obviously our own personalities,
Yeah.
right? But around our personal branding.
Yeah, yeah, because we are in front of clients every day or
Right.
every other day, so we want to look professional, but we do want it to reflect, our own style as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a service I offer because I do think it is really important. A lot of people will just put up like an AI background, right? But
Right.
if you want
And
people
you're
to
like
really,
melting into
yeah.
it,
Yeah, sometimes it looks pretty awful to be
right?
honest. And so, yeah, I think it is really important to have, a nice backdrop that represents who you are and that's professional.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, having a pretty neutral backdrop, but then you can add in those punches of color. Of course, you don't want like a mirror or window right behind you. You really do have to think of light,
Mhm.
but to have layered lighting as well. Don't rely on just, one big, overhead light. You
Right.
certainly want to have, yeah, the layering there. But yeah, and I mean, if a lot of, I know a lot of entrepreneurs or authors like having your book display or an award display,
Mhm.
subtly on one side, like having balance on both sides of you, behind you. But again, something, subtle enough that's not too distracting, but at least is like elevating your persona, your energy, your everything, right? So I
Yeah.
think I think it's yeah, and so I love to offer that because I think it is really helpful. And you start to feel different again, just like the clothing and everything else. You do feel different when you know your environment is supporting you and representing you how you want to come off as. So, mhm.
Yeah, 100%. Can you share like any, and you don't have to obviously say their names, but like any client stories or client wins where someone has
Mhm.
come to you, maybe and I know we've talked a lot about this
Mhm.
on our calls, but maybe a client that is leaving corporate and now needs to make that shift to work from home and is starting her own
Yeah.
business. She's super excited about it, but again, the
Yeah.
environment is not, it's definitely not aligning to where she wants to go.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that brings to mind my client Charlene, who she was on mat leave and, she was getting ready to, get back into the workspace. She, has her own business as well, but her office was actually used as a storage room. And
Oh, geez.
so, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was rough. I mean, and they moved a year ago. And so it was still piled up with boxes. On her desk, there were 3 monitors, a laptop, again, just piles and stacks of things. So we
Mhm.
worked virtually together for, every single day for a week. And we just went through, we started to really declutter, we started to get rid of things. And it was amazing that by day 3, she had a completely clear desk. She had donated at least 3 boxes of items. She had, filled garbage bags. And this is
Yeah.
through, I do a lot of prompting. We do it together. I ask questions and we always start with non-emotional items, etc. So there's
Yeah.
there's, a process to it.
Right.
But yeah, but by day 3, we had that desk completely clear. We had some flowers, we had a mood light, we had one laptop and a candle. And she, by day 3, she was writing her first blog post in months. So that, yeah,
That's
already she could
awesome.
set, she'd walk into the room and she just felt lighter. She felt like a different person.
Yeah.
So it's so powerful. It's so beautiful to see and hear those stories.
I love that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. Now you have, you're in a co-authored book.
Yeah.
Yeah, share a little bit about that because this is, this is what happens like when you really are building your personal brand and
Mm.
you're making use of it.
Yeah.
People come to me and they're like, "I don't how do I build or how do I create my personal brand?" I'm like, it was created the day that you were born. Look in the
Yeah.
mirror, you have
True.
one. It's just a
Yes.
matter of how are you packaging it and using it to,
Mm.
obviously to help yourself grow as a human being and also a business person. So share
Yeah.
about that book and how that came along.
Yeah, so super exciting. So I joined this amazing network of women through Kathleen Cameron's group a couple of
Mhm.
years ago. And there was a big event here in Toronto last year called Manifest. And so they were, they kind of brought up this collaboration book idea and for doing, applications if you want to apply. Well, I literally went home at lunch because I was very close by and I applied right away. We had to write a whole synopsis. And I always thought my story of becoming a fashion designer is just, to me, it's incredible. I just couldn't believe, how I
Yeah,
quantum leapt my life in such a short period of time. And it was just so it's such a passion filled time of my life. So I thought, what a beautiful story to share and help inspire others. And so, long story short, I was chosen as one. And just last week, we all got together in New York City and we got to see our book and our faces up on a Times Square billboard. So that
that's
was
so amazing.
incredibly exciting. Yeah. And then we all celebrated at Fauchon Paris afterward. It was just such a beautiful, beautiful time. And then on June 30th is the official launch. And so that's going to be here in Toronto. But yes, my whole story is about, kind of briefly what I talked about with the whole fashion design rise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, the one thing with this too, that I really want people to get is that a lot of this takes a lot of courage and
Mm.
awareness and, being willing to look deeper and to take those kind of what other people would think like risky steps to
Yeah.
get to where you want. So
Mm.
I love your story. I think it's absolutely incredible and beautiful.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
so happy that you came to share it with us. So
Mm.
I'm gonna ask for one little thing from you. If
Sure.
there was like one secret that you could share with our audience as it relates to building a personal brand, what would that be?
Yeah. So, I mean, let me think. Well, I think most people are trying to build their next level while surrounded by the evidence, right, of their current level. So I think, a lot of us are trying to become more visible while working from these environments that still make us feel small, maybe. So,
Mhm.
attracting bigger opportunities, but surrounded by unfinished projects or, just these environments that just don't support confidence. So,
Yeah,
like I said, your environment is really communicating something to you every single day. And so just really become aware and ask, what is it telling you? Because awareness is where it all begins. And I truly believe that when your environment begins reflecting who you're becoming, you naturally start showing up differently inside of it. And so that's really often where the real transformation begins.
lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
All right, Jane. Well, I know I will say this has been a little different of a conversation, but I think a very necessary conversation. I'm so glad that we had it. So, where is the best place for people to find you? Now, we are
Mm,
going to have all of your details in the show notes, but where can
okay.
they learn more about Style to Rise and
Mhm.
specifically find out about everything else that you do, the CEO workspace and Zoom transformation packages, and even in person? So, any of you that are in
Yeah.
person, and she will travel, she loves
Yep.
traveling.
I do. You got that right. Yeah, so I'd say LinkedIn, and Instagram are really the top 2
Cool.
places. Yeah, LinkedIn probably the most, yeah,
Amazing.
current and yeah, but either
Love
either one of those, and then I have a website as well, but those will have all the upcoming
cool.
events. Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for
Thank
being on.
you.
All right, everyone. I'll see you, or you'll get to listen in on the next one. You're listening to the Secret Marketing Diary of Personal Brands, where being the face of your business gets to be powerful, profitable, and unfiltered.